The first time the piano screamed back at me, I thought it was just my imagination. But when the keys burned beneath my fingers, and the walls seemed to breathe, I knew the curse was real. College dorms were supposed to smell like ramen noodles, beer, and bad cologne. Not like Oldwood soaked in despair. Yet my dorm room on the second floor of Haverbrook University carried a different weight. One that pressed into my chest every time I sat down at that battered piano pushed against the window. People whispered about it, called it haunted, cursed, even demonic. But no one believed the story until I became its prisoner. Every night, at exactly midnight, I had to play that same broken melody. A song that clawed through me, note by note, until my hands were raw, until my heart begged me to stop. And every night, without fail, my roommate watched. He never said much. He never intervened. He just leaned back against his bed frame, eyes shadowed by the dim lamp, like he was both my witness and my judge. His name was Adrian, but he never offered more than that. Mysterious didn't even begin to cover him. I hated him at first, not because of what he didn't really do anything, but because of how he looked at me, like he knew more than I did, like the song was less of a punishment and more of a test. And maybe, deep down, I was afraid he'd see how much of me was breaking apart each night. The first time he spoke during one of those midnight performances, it shattered something in me. "You're playing it wrong," Adrian said, his voice low, calm, almost teasing. I stopped, my chest heaving, sweat dripping down my temple. "Wrong." My laugh came out sharp, bitter. "You think I want to play this?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pushed off the wall and walked closer, his footsteps soft against the creaky floor. He crouched beside the piano, close enough for me to smell the faint trace of cedar and soap on him. His eyes flicked over the keys, then back to me. "No one can play it right," he murmured. "That's the point." My breath caught. "What do you mean, the point?" Adrian leaned back, his face shadowed but his expression sharp, knowing. "The song isn't cursed because it's evil. It's cursed because it demands a piece of you every time you play. That's why it survives." I didn't want to believe him. I wanted to shove him away, laugh in his face, call him insane. But deep down, I knew. I felt it. The hollow inside me was widening each night, and if I kept playing, there'd be nothing left. And yet, if I didn't play, the silence was worse. That night, when I finished the melody, Adrian didn't just watch. He stayed there, sitting on the floor by the piano, his shoulder brushing mine, silent but present. For the first time since moving into that cursed dorm, I wasn't alone. The irony was cruel. The song was eating me alive, but Adrian's quiet companionship was stitching me together. The next day, I tried to ignore him, pretend he wasn't becoming the only thing keeping me sane. I buried myself in classes, in crowded lecture halls and coffee-stained textbooks. But even in daylight, I could feel his gaze on me, measured, patient, heavy. "Why do you care?" I asked him one afternoon, the words bursting out sharper than I intended. We were alone in the room, sunlight slicing through the blinds, and he was sprawled across his bed, reading. His eyes lifted slowly from the page. "Because you're not the first." The room went cold. I didn't answer. I didn't want to answer, because the way he said it, calm and almost sad, told me everything. He knew this curse intimately. That night, I almost didn't sit at the piano. I stood by it, fists clenched, my heart a storm. "What happens if I stop?" I asked him. Adrian didn't look at me right away. He closed his book, set it down, and only then met my eyes. "You don't want to know." That should have been enough to scare me into obedience. But his words weren't what haunted me. It was the flicker of pain across his face, the kind of pain you only carried when you'd lived through the thing you refused to speak about. I sat down. My hands trembled. The keys waited like teeth. And as I played, I realized something terrifying. The song wasn't just hollowing me out. It was binding me to him. The song seeped into my bones like poison, but it was his presence that kept me anchored. Each night felt longer, darker, yet somehow bearable because I wasn't entirely alone. And that contradiction terrified me. I never wanted to need someone like this. The dorm was quiet that night, unnervingly so. Most of the guys had gone to some off-campus party, their laughter and music fading down the street hours ago. The silence around us was thick, broken only by the creak of my chair as I shifted. The piano loomed, the faint shine of its keys daring me to touch them. I was stalling, and Adrian knew it. He leaned against the bed frame, his dark hoodie pulled over his head, eyes locked on me. Patient, too patient. "Midnight," he said softly, nodding at the clock. "You're running out of time." His voice wasn't cruel. It wasn't demanding. It was just a statement, like he was reminding me to breathe, reminding me of what was coming whether I liked it or not. I exhaled, sat down, and pressed the first key. The sound reverberated like a knife scraping bone. Halfway through the melody, the room changed. It always did. The air thickened, shadows lengthened, and for a split second, I swore the walls pulsed like a beating heart. My fingers stumbled, missing a note, and the sound that followed wasn't music at all. It was a scream, high-pitched and raw, echoing through the wood of the piano itself. I jerked back, chest heaving. "Keep playing," Adrian said sharply, moving closer. His voice cut through the panic, grounding me in a way that both infuriated and comforted me. "You think I can after that?" I snapped. His hand came down on mine, firm, warm, steady. His eyes locked on me, unflinching. "If you stop now, it'll eat you alive. Don't give it that chance." The contact sent a jolt through me. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. His palm was rough, his fingers curling slightly over mine, guiding them back to the keys. Together, we pressed down. The scream twisted back into a note. Still dissonant, still wrong, but not unbearable. We played the rest of the song like that, our hands brushing, his strength keeping my shaking under control. And when it was done, silence fell heavy and final. I collapsed against the piano, breath ragged. "You knew that would happen." Adrian didn't deny it. He stood, pulling his hood down, running a hand through his messy hair. "The song doesn't just test you, tries to break you, but it can't. Not if you have something to hold on to." I stared at him, words caught in my throat. Something to hold on to. Was he talking about himself? The next morning, I woke to find him sitting at the desk, scribbling notes in a battered notebook. Sunlight cut across his profile, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw, the faint circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept. "What are you writing?" I asked groggily. He shut the notebook instantly, like I'd caught him with a weapon. "Nothing. Doesn't look like nothing." He gave me a look that could slice steel, then softened. "It's about the song. About survivors." The word dug into me. Survivors. Plural. Which meant there were others. Which meant Adrian wasn't just some random guy thrown into this room with me. "You've been through this," I whispered. His silence was confirmation enough. Days blurred into nights, lectures into assignments, but the only thing that truly mattered was midnight. Each time Adrian was there. Sometimes he sat in silence. Sometimes he corrected me. Sometimes he touched my hands, guiding me through the notes when my fingers faltered. The contact was always brief, always professional in a way, but my body betrayed me. Heat bloomed in my chest, spreading to places I didn't want to name. I shouldn't have wanted him. I barely knew him, but the truth was undeniable. I felt safer with Adrian in the room than I had in years. One night, After the melody drained out into silence, I turned to him. Why me? He tilted his head. What do you mean? Why am I the one playing it now? Why not you? If you survived it before. Because, he interrupted, his voice low, final, I failed. The word cut through me sharper than any scream from the piano. He saw the shock on my face and leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. The curse doesn't just pass to anyone. Chooses. And when I stopped playing, his eyes flickered with something I couldn't name. Guilt, grief, maybe both. Someone else paid the price. I didn't press. Not that night. But the confession wrapped around me like barbed wire. He wasn't just a witness. He was carrying the weight of his own sins. And suddenly, I understood his silence, his patience, the way he watched me with something more than curiosity. He wasn't judging me. He was protecting me. But from what? The song? Or from himself? Weeks passed, and the melody never loosened its grip. I grew thinner, paler, my hands calloused from hours of nightly torment. But I also grew closer to Adrian. He was my shadow, my anchor. He brought me food when I forgot to eat. He made me laugh with dry sarcasm when the weight became too much. He became everything. One stormy night, lightning flashing outside the dorm window, I broke. I can't do this anymore, I whispered, tears burning my eyes as my fingers hovered over the cursed keys. It's killing me, Adrian. He stood, moving closer until he was right beside me. It's not killing you. It's reshaping you. There's a difference. I looked at him, anger flaring. That's easy for you to say. You're not the one chained to it. His jaw tightened. Don't you think I wish I was? Don't you think I'd take it back if I could? I froze. His eyes were wet, his voice cracking for the first time since I'd known him. He wasn't calm. He wasn't mysterious. He was raw, broken, human. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. He cared. Not just about the curse, not just about the song. About me. The music demanded my soul every night. But Adrian made me want to fight to keep it. That night, I didn't just play the curse song. I played for him. The thunder outside crashed like a drumline, rattling the thin dorm windows. My fingers hovered, trembling, over the ivory keys. The piano seemed to be waiting for me, taunting me, daring me to play. But I didn't look at the instrument. I looked at him. Adrian was closer than he'd ever been, standing at my side with his chest rising and falling like he'd been holding something back for years. The stormlight flickered across his face, illuminating the raw emotion there. For once, the mask was gone. Play, he whispered, his voice hoarse. But this time, don't play for the curse. Play for yourself. I don't even remember who I am without this song, I admitted, my voice cracking. It's taken everything from me. My sleep, my sanity. My throat closed around the last word. My hope. His hand brushed my shoulder, tentative, like he was afraid I'd flinch away. Then let me be the reason you keep going. Just for tonight. The words rooted me in place. I turned toward him, eyes wide, searching his face for some trace of a lie. But Adrian didn't look away. His eyes were steady, fierce, and heartbreakingly sincere. So I played. The melody clawed through me like always, dragging shards of my soul out with every note. But this time it felt different, because every time the dissonance twisted, every time the piano tried to consume me, I held on to him. His steady presence beside me, his voice whispering soft encouragements. You've got this. Don't stop. You're stronger than it. The storm raged outside, thunder matching the rhythm of the cursed music. By the time I struck the final note, I collapsed against the keys, gasping for air. The song ended in a violent echo, vibrating through the wood, before dissolving into silence. Adrian caught me before I slid off the bench, his arms wrapped around me, firm but gentle, pulling me into him. I pressed my forehead against his chest, breathing in the warmth of him, the steady thump of his heartbeat. "I can't lose you too," he whispered, the words muffled against my hair. "Too," I choked out. Adrian stiffened, but didn't let go. His hand moved slowly along my back, almost as if to soothe himself as much as me. I pulled back enough to see his face. "You said someone else paid the price." "Who?" "Adrian." His eyes darkened, jaw tightening like he was wrestling with himself. For a moment, I thought he'd shut down again, bury his secrets where I could never reach them. But then, "My brother," he admitted, voice barely audible. "He was the one before you." The words dropped like a bomb. I stared at him, unable to process, my chest aching with the weight of his confession. "Your brother." He nodded slowly, his gaze unfocused, haunted. He couldn't take it. I should have. His voice broke. He swallowed hard and tried again. "I should have stopped it. I thought I could protect him. But the song, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care how much you love someone. It only takes." The silence stretched, heavy with grief neither of us could name. My throat tightened, my vision blurring. I reached up, almost without thinking, and touched his cheek. His skin was warm, rough under my fingertips. "You didn't fail him. This curse, it isn't yours to carry." His eyes flicked to mine, sharp, wet, unguarded. And in that charged moment, the space between us dissolved. I didn't plan it, neither did he. But suddenly his lips were on mine, desperate, trembling, like he was afraid I'd vanish if he let go. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was raw, a clash of grief and longing and anger at the universe for binding us to this nightmare. But underneath it all, there was something undeniable, something that made my heart ache and heal at the same time. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless, staring at each other like the world had shifted on its axis. "I shouldn't have done that," Adrian whispered, his forehead resting against mine. "You don't deserve to be dragged deeper into this." "Too late," I whispered back. "I already am." He exhaled, shaky, like he wanted to argue but knew it was pointless. That night, we didn't speak again. We just sat together on the narrow dorm bed, shoulders touching, silence wrapping around us like fragile safety. I fell asleep leaning against him, his arm draped loosely around me, and for the first time in months, I dreamed of something other than the cursed piano. But safety never lasted long. The following week, the curse escalated. The song no longer waited for midnight. The piano keys would rattle during the day, vibrating on their own until I touched them. Sometimes, when I closed my eyes, I could hear the melody playing faintly, like a parasite inside my skull. Adrian noticed before I said anything. He always noticed. "You're slipping," he murmured one afternoon, his hand brushing mine under the desk as we studied. The contact was brief but electric, a reminder that he was watching, tethering me to reality. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," I admitted. His jaw tightened, but he didn't let go of my hand. "Then we find a way to end it." "End it?" I echoed, stunned. Adrian's eyes burned with determination. "There's always a way. My brother, he didn't get the chance. But you will." Something inside me stirred, a fragile hope I'd thought was long dead. From then on, our nights weren't just about surviving the melody. They were about searching. Adrian dug through old archives, dusty library books, anything that mentioned the cursed song or the piano. I watched him scribble notes furiously in his battered notebook, his focus so intense it scared me. The more we learned, the darker the truth became. The melody wasn't just cursed. It was a binding spell, born centuries ago by a grieving composer who'd lost his lover. He poured his grief into the music, desperate to immortalize their love. But instead, he trapped their pain, turning the song into a parasite that fed on whoever played it. It demands sacrifice, Adrian explained one night, his voice low as he read from an ancient text. Every player must give something of themselves, and when they break, the song moves on to someone new. Then how do we stop it? I asked, my voice shaking. Adrian's eyes lifted from the page, locking onto mine. By finishing what the composer started. By turning it back into love. The words hung between us, heavy with meaning. Love, I whispered. He nodded. The curse feeds on despair. But if we can play it with something stronger, maybe we can rewrite it. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the idea sounded impossible. Love wasn't a switch I could flip. Love was messy, terrifying, and fragile. And yet, every time Adrian touched me, every time he looked at me like I was worth saving, I felt something that could only be described as love growing inside me. But could it be enough? The night we decided to try was the most terrifying of my life. The piano loomed larger than ever, the keys gleaming like fangs in the moonlight. My hands shook violently as I sat down, Adrian beside me, his presence steady, grounding. Ready? He asked softly. No, I admitted, but I'll do it anyway. He smiled faintly, a rare crack in his guarded facade. That's enough. We began. The cursed melody rose again, its claws sinking into me, dragging me toward the abyss. But this time I didn't fight alone. Adrian's hand slid over mine, guiding the keys, his warmth seeping into me. Look at me, he whispered. I did. And in his eyes, I saw everything the song couldn't take. Hope, strength, love unspoken but undeniable. I poured it into the notes, forcing the melody to bend, to change. The dissonance wavered, the screams softening into something mournful, almost beautiful. For the first time, the song didn't feel like a curse, felt like a confession. When the final note rang out, silence didn't crush me. It embraced me. I collapsed into Adrian's arms, sobbing with relief. He held me tight, burying his face in my hair, his body trembling with emotion he refused to voice. You did it, he whispered, his voice breaking. You're free. But as the words left his mouth, the piano keys rattled violently on their own, a discordant echo filling the room. The curse wasn't gone. Not yet. And in that moment, I realized the song wasn't demanding just love. It was demanding a choice, a sacrifice. And Adrian already knew what he was willing to give. The piano's violent rattling shook the entire dorm, rattling picture frames off the walls and sending dust from the ceiling into our lungs. The sound wasn't just noise anymore, it was fury. Adrian yanked me back from the bench, his arms wrapped around me as though shielding me from a fire. The keys slammed down one by one, faster and faster, until it sounded like 100 fists pounding wood in rage. It knows, Adrian whispered against my ear, his breath ragged. It knows we tried to change it. My chest tightened. Then what do we do? His grip on me only tightened. He didn't answer right away, and when he did, his voice was heavy with a weight I couldn't ignore. We finish it. The air stilled, the piano quieting for the first time in weeks. But the silence wasn't peace. It was waiting. I pulled back enough to see his face. His eyes were dark, determined, but something else lingered there. Resignation. Don't, I begged, panic flooding me. Don't say it. He swallowed hard. Someone has to give themselves to it fully. Not just the music, the pain, the love, the loss. That's the only way it ends. My stomach dropped. No, no, Adrian, you're not. I have to. His voice cracked, though his gaze stayed steady. This curse, it's taken everything from me already. My brother, my peace, my life before this. I can't let it take you too. Tears burned my eyes. I shoved at his chest weakly, anger and terror colliding inside me. So what, you just decide you're the sacrifice? You don't get to make that choice alone. His hands cupped my face, holding me still, his thumbs brushing my tears away. Yes, I do, because I couldn't save my brother. But I can save you. The words split me in two. I hated him for saying it, for being willing to throw himself away. But I loved him, God. I loved him, for caring enough to try. Adrian, my voice was barely a whisper. You can't ask me to let you do this. He leaned his forehead against mine, his breath warm, shaky. I'm not asking. I'm telling you I'd rather die than watch it eat you alive. The room was too small for the weight of it. The storm outside had stilled, as though even the sky was listening. The cursed piano gleamed in the shadows, waiting for its sacrifice. And in that moment I understood. The song didn't want just love. It wanted the purest form of it, the willingness to give everything up for someone else. But I couldn't let him. When midnight struck again, the piano called. Its first note reverberated through the room, pulling me toward it like gravity. Adrian grabbed my hand, trying to step forward first, but I yanked him back. No, I said firmly, surprising both of us with the steel in my voice. If someone has to pay the price, it's going to be me. Adrian's eyes flared with panic. Don't you dare. I won't let you. I squeezed his hand tight. I'm the one it chose, Adrian. Not you. I've been chained to this thing since day one. You've carried your brother's death long enough. Let me carry this. We stared at each other, caught between fear and love, desperation and defiance. And then, slowly he shook his head. You don't understand. It isn't just about who plays it. It's about who feels it. You'll die if you give yourself over. But if I do it, maybe it'll accept what I've been carrying all along. My voice cracked. Your brother. His jaw clenched, tears gathering in his eyes for the first time. I've been half dead since the night I lost him. The curse already took me. This is the only way to make it mean something. Before I could stop him, Adrian pulled me into a kiss so fierce it stole the breath from my lungs. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate, consuming, a goodbye disguised as love. When he pulled back, I grabbed his shirt, refusing to let him go. If you do this, I'll never forgive you. He smiled, soft, broken. Then at least I'll know you'll keep living. He turned toward the piano, but I held on tighter. My body shook, my chest aching with the realization that I couldn't lose him. Not to the curse, not to anything. The piano keys rattled again, demanding, hungry. Adrian? I whispered, my forehead pressed against his back. There has to be another way. He stilled, his breathing uneven. If there is, we don't have time to find it. The words tore me apart. But then something inside me shifted. An instinct, a surge of clarity. What if it doesn't have to be one of us? I asked. He turned, confusion etched across his face. I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. What if it's not about sacrifice but about sharing it? About both of us giving ourselves? Together? Adrian froze, his lips parting as the idea settled in. The piano rumbled low, a growl in the wood, like it sensed our defiance. If it feeds on despair, I pressed, my voice trembling, then maybe we can smother it with something stronger, both of us. Love doesn't have to be one person giving everything up, it's two people holding on. For a long moment, Adrian just stared at me, torn between hope and fear. Then slowly, a flicker of something new lit his eyes. Together, he whispered. Together, I echoed. We moved to the bench side by side, our hands intertwining above the keys. Midnight had fully arrived, the air vibrating with tension, the piano alive and waiting. I met Adrian's gaze one last time. No matter what happens, don't let go. His grip tightened around mine. Never. We pressed the first notes. The cursed melody roared to life, but this time, it didn't feel like claws dragging us down. Felt like a battle. Shadows spilled from the piano, curling like smoke, wrapping around our arms, our throats. But every time the darkness tried to pull us under, Adrian squeezed my hand, grounding me, anchoring me. We poured ourselves into the music. Not despair, not grief, but everything else. Every laugh we'd shared, every touch, every look that had meant more than words. We gave it hope, longing, love that burned so fiercely it made the air shimmer. The melody twisted, bending under our defiance. The screams softened, reshaped into harmony. The shadows recoiled, shrinking back into the wood, hissing as though in pain. Adrian's face was pale, his body shaking, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. "Keep going," he gasped. I nodded, tears streaming down my cheeks. "With you." The final notes rang out, soaring instead of collapsing. For the first time, the cursed song ended in beauty, not despair. The piano fell silent, truly silent. The air cleared, the shadows gone. The room was still warm, alive again. And I realized we'd done it. Together, we had broken the curse. I turned to Adrian, ready to throw myself into his arms, but my joy faltered. His body sagged forward, his hand slipping from mine. "Adrian," I cried, catching him before he hit the floor. His skin was cold, his breath shallow, but he was alive. Barely. I pressed my forehead to his, sobbing. "Don't you dare leave me. Not after this. Not after everything." His eyelids fluttered, his lips parting. "Told you I wouldn't let it take you. You didn't save me," I whispered fiercely. "We saved each other." His faint smile was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. That night, we lay together on the narrow bed, both too weak to move, but unwilling to let go. The piano sat silent in the corner, no longer cursed, no longer alive, just wood and strings. And for the first time since stepping into that dorm room, I felt free. The cursed melody had once been my cage, but tonight it became my freedom. My fingers no longer trembled with fear on the keys. Instead, they carried the weight of love, of sacrifice, of a choice I had made not for myself but for the boy who had stood silently in the shadows too long. Ethan's eyes were on me, unwavering, as the final notes hung in the room like a confession. The dorm was quiet except for the soft hum of the old radiator, the night pressing against the windows. When the last chord fell into silence, I didn't expect what came next. Ethan stepped forward, and for the first time since the beginning of this haunting, he wasn't just the observer. He was part of the song. "You were never cursed," he said softly. "It was me. I was the one bound to it. I stayed hidden because I thought if you knew, you'd run. But you stayed. You played for me." His voice cracked, and my heart clenched. Everything made sense now, the way he lingered in the dark, the way he never interrupted, the way his presence became as necessary to the music as the keys under my hands. I stood from the piano bench, my body heavy with exhaustion and relief, and walked toward him. "You should have told me." Ethan shook his head. "I couldn't. People don't survive cursed love stories. They end in silence or tragedy. I didn't want you trapped with me." I laughed bitterly, though tears stung my eyes. "Too late for that. You think I haven't already fallen? You've been the ghost in my room, the shadow I can't ignore, the reason my hands don't stop bleeding on these keys. And you think I'd just walk away?" His eyes widened, his breath unsteady. Then he closed the distance between us. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't loud. It was quiet, trembling, almost reverent. His lips brushed mine like a question he wasn't sure he had the right to ask. And I answered it. The kiss was everything. The breaking of chains, the mending of wounds, the unspoken words finally finding their way out. It was raw and tender, the kind of kiss that rewrote endings. When we finally pulled away, the cursed piano behind me seemed smaller, powerless, nothing more than an old instrument. Ethan's hand slid into mine, fingers lacing together like they'd always belonged there. "Maybe love was the song all along," he whispered. I smiled, feeling the weight lift, replaced by something far stronger. "Then let's keep playing it." The night outside stretched endlessly, but for the first time, it felt like it belonged to us. Two boys who had carried too much, who had been broken and remade, who had found each other in a room where shadows once ruled. The world beyond our dorm room wouldn't understand. Whispers, stares, judgments, they would all come. But in that moment, I realized none of it mattered. The curse wasn't in the music. The curse was silence. And together we had broken it. I pulled him toward the piano, and with his hands still in mine, we sat together. My fingers found the keys again, but this time he leaned against me, warm and alive. The melody that rose wasn't the cursed song. It was new, fragile, beautiful, ours. And as it filled the room, I knew that no matter how much darkness lingered outside, love would always be louder. The boy who had once been my silent roommate was now my symphony. And I was his. The end. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.